Hello, hello, hello. This is Dr. Janice, our love, also known as the First Lady Coach, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Did you know that Jesus can help you not only with your credibility, but with your confidence as well? Stay tuned as we talk about three ways that Jesus can give you the confidence and the credibility that you need. Talking about three ways Jesus can give you the credibility and the confidence you need. All right. So when you think about, even when you read the Bible, especially in the Old Testament, I feel some kind of way sometimes when I read some of the stories that happen in the New Test. I mean, the Old Testament. I mean, women were treated like property. They were often, their marriages were arranged. Love didn't have anything to do with it. They oftentimes were treated some kind of way. And the more you look at it, women were being used for economic and political reasons. Think about some of David's wives. Again, they were considered property. And again, love typically didn't have anything to do with it. They were assigned marriage partners by either their parents or even their brother, even had the ability to assign a marriage partner to them. And again, think about the women who had special challenges, such as they were unable to bear children. They were they were seen in society as not even worthy, because if you couldn't have children, if you could not take care of the household and have children, in some cases you were even worthless. And sometimes, again, if you were found to not be what a virgin or whatever, or men correct, all kinds of things happened in the Old Testament. But what I really like is when we get over to the New Testament. Now I'm going to drop a history fact on you that I learned through reading this one book. So when you think about women in the Bible and what they even said, right? There's I think 99 women who actually spoke in the Bible, and women are responsible for about 14,000 words in the Bible. Now, that might sound like a lot to you, but when you look at the average large book, there is some 14,000 words in there, which means that all the words that were spoken by women could actually be said in a period of about 2 hours. But with throughout the entire Bible, there's some 1.1 billion words that are spoken. So what that means is that either they were spoken by men, or they they were spoken by men. So women didn't have a voice, if I want to put it that way. Women really didn't have a voice, but that doesn't mean they did not have a significant impact in the Bible through some of the stories that were told about them, and perhaps they did not get to speak. But anyway, on another note, we're going to again be talking about three ways that Jesus can give you the credibility and the confidence you need. So, again, when Jesus shows up on the scene, the narrative changes a little bit for women. Okay, when Jesus arrives, again, when you look throughout the New Testament, there are more stories about women. There are more opportunities for Jesus to validate women. Again, he has conversations with women, something that you never saw in the Old Testament, where there were conversations, intellectual conversations. Women were not seen as witnesses. So again, I'm going to show you three different ways that Jesus gave women in the Bible confidence. And then I'm also going to show you again how that can help with your confidence and your credibility. Now, when we think about credibility, that is the fact that either somebody believes us or we can validate. All right. So think about being a credible witness, right? If someone was on trial and you were a witness, many times in the Old Testament, women were not called as witnesses. But what we'll see in the New Testament is because of Jesus, women are called as witnesses. Now, think about witness from a legal perspective. We know that if somebody gets on the stand and they lie, basically, they can be held in contempt. Back in the biblical days, it was actually punishable by death. But I'm just jumping ahead of myself because I'm just so excited about this. I'm just jumping ahead of myself. Okay, so let me talk about the three different ways that Jesus can help you, give you the credibility and the confidence that you need. So the very first way is that Jesus validates our faith and our wisdom. Now, if you look at Luke 11th chapter, 29 through 32, when they are asking Jesus for a sign, Jesus Jesus is irritated, obviously, with them. But what he does is he brings up the wisdom and the faith that the Queen of Sheba exhibited when she went all the way out of her way to go and visit King Solomon. She talks about that. So I'm just going to read a little bit to you. But again, they had asked Jesus for a sign, and he simply said, "The Queen of Sheba will rise up on the day of judgment to accuse and condemn this generation for its unbelief. She journeyed from a far and distant land just to listen to the wisdom of King Solomon." So again, he validates a woman. At this point, just imagine again, if this had never been done, here he is getting on them about their lack of faith. And he gives the example of a woman about how she went through the necessary things that she had to do in order to be able to see Solomon. So I just love it the way he steps out there, because he could have just talked about anybody else. He could talk about Abraham. He could have talked about anybody else, but he mentions the Queen of Sheba. Don't you just love it? So he validates our faith and our wisdom. Think about when he healed the woman with the issue of blood. And he stopped traffic, he stopped everything just so that he could acknowledge her faith. He is the one that healed her, but again, he gave her the opportunity to say what was on her mind. That if she thought to herself that if she could just touch the hem of his garment, then she would be healed. So he acknowledged her faith. Jesus validates our faith and our wisdom. Think about when he talks about the widow woman's offering, or when he talks about the woman and the lost coin, the faith that she has and the dedication that she has to keep going until she finds what she has lost. So again, Jesus recognizes our wisdom and our faith. So think about that in your own life. When you have stepped out on faith to do things, Jesus recognizes that. And he gave us the courage, again, through some of these examples with the women in the Bible. He gave us that permission. He gave us that confidence that we could step out on faith and we could exhibit our faith. So don't you just love it? Or that we could show our wisdom. So I just love how Jesus does that for us. So think about it again in your own life when you may be feeling like that others may not what I would say maybe not validate you, but we already know that Jesus validates us, and he gave us permission to be able to speak of our faith and to exhibit our faith as well. All right, jump in there if anybody has any comments. I'd love to hear them. All right, so next, the second thing how Jesus can help us with our confidence as well as our credibility. And again, my computer did something weird, so I'm looking back and forth with my notes. Anyway, all right, so let's move on to the second thing that Jesus does for us. Jesus recognizes women not only as friends, but also as colleagues and supporters. We all know the story of Mary and Martha, right? We knew that Jesus visited their house on a regular basis. He hung out with them. He had conversations with them. They were his friends. But you didn't see any of that in the Old Testament, or even amongst the disciples, having these friends were that he felt safe enough to hang out with them. He felt comfortable enough to have conversations with them, and they weren't just talking about just any and everything. They were having deep conversations, even though when they go to Mary and Martha's house, he has to kind of set Martha straight when she was complaining about stuff. But then he still validates her when he heals her brother. In fact, Martha was the very first one to truly acknowledge that he is Lord, and that he is the Christ. So I just love it. He recognized them as friends and colleagues. Think about the other women that were able to actually hang out and travel with Jesus. He validates them as friends and colleagues and supporters. You all have heard of Joanna. You've heard of Susanna, the wife of Chusa. He was a Roman officer, but yet his wife traveled with Jesus and supported him financially. He talks about Mary Magdala, who supported him financially. There were other women who were supporters of Jesus, and he recognizes them for their contributions to his ministry. So again, Jesus recognizes us as friends and as colleagues, and again as supporters. So when you think about the things that you do in the ministry, the things that you do to serve God's people, he validates you as a friend and a colleague and a supporter. So when you have that confidence that Jesus supports what it is you do to serve other people, that gives you a whole lot of confidence and a whole lot of credibility. Again, women couldn't travel with men. They weren't to be traveling with men unless they were married to them. But here we have single women traveling and supporting Jesus. You have him visiting the home of single women and having conversations with them. You see him also again being supported by not only single women, but married women, which means they had the means. So he validates us once again as colleagues and supporters. We're not in the background. We were walking side by side with Jesus and traveling with him. So again, if that doesn't show you how Jesus can validate your credibility, I don't know what it does. Because again, think about the conversation that he had with the woman at the well, right? It, it wasn't even supposed to be legal that he was even talking to her, from the fact that she was a Samaritan. She was a Samaritan, first of all, and then she was a woman too. But again, he has a conversation with her, and she's the one that after he had a conversation with her, she's the one that ran into the city, and a whole town was saved because she simply had a conversation with him. Oh, somebody put Lydia out there. That's right. There are numerous mentions of women in the Bible. And again, but Jesus is the one that especially validates them. If you look throughout the book of Luke, as well as John, you will see so many examples where women are standing in the forefront. Women are conversating with Jesus. Jesus is healing. He is validating. He is setting them free. He is doing so many things for women. And I am just blessed to know that he can do the same thing for me, and he can do that same thing for you. All right. So the third thing, so the second thing again was Jesus recognizes women as friends, colleagues, and supporters. And then finally, what Jesus can do to increase your credibility and your confidence is that Jesus endorses you as an eyewitness with a reliable testimony. Remember, I talked about the fact that if you were not a reliable witness, especially in the Old Testament or even in biblical days, if you were not a reliable witness, you could be punished by death. And even in today's times, if you get up there and lie on the stand, then you can be punished for doing that. But Jesus allowed women to have that confidence to step forward and be eyewitnesses with their own testimonies. All right, so think about when Jesus appeared when he first rose from the dead on that third day. Jesus appeared to women first. Now, imagine what would have happened if Mary Magdalene had made that up and said to the disciples that Jesus is here, right? Jesus rose from the dead. Jesus is alive, and she had been lying, right? Imagine what that would have done to our credibility. But she was the first one that had the news that Jesus had risen from the dead. And so she became a reliable witness for him. And again, he could have appeared to the men first. Okay. In fact, he could have, it could have been so that the women were even afraid to go to the tomb, but he appeared to the women first. I love it. Also, when we look at the woman who was the woman who had the alabaster oil, who cried on Jesus's feet and poured the perfume and the oil and anointed him. When you think about that, Jesus, everybody else around her was condemning her, but Jesus made her a reliable witness and of what he had done for her. He validated her as the one who was doing the right thing, right? Because everybody else was worried about all kinds of things. In fact, the host was worried about other things, but that woman was there to do a job, to celebrate Jesus, to thank him for what he had done for her. And again, she became known as the woman who anointed Jesus before his death. And again, it's the way it's written in the Bible is that she is a woman that will be known for generations to come because of what she did for Jesus. So he validates us as an eyewitness and validates our testimony as reliable. So those are three things that Jesus can do for you as well that will establish your credibility or help with your credibility. And when our credibility, people can believe us as honest and true, then we are also able to have that confidence that we need in order to do what we have been created to do, to also step out on faith and do again what God has assigned us to do, be who he has created us to be, and be and live our best lives. So I know I've been rambling all over the place, but again, Jesus is the one that helped women to have not only that credibility, but also that confidence. And if he did it for the women in the Bible, especially in the times that they lived in, and now we are professors, we are doctors, we are business women, we are all of the above, he definitely can do even more for us. So remember that. So again, tonight we have been talking about three ways Jesus can give you the credibility and the confidence that you need. And again, thank you so much for joining me on tonight. Let's see.